This is Brockport Writers Forum.
The poetry of Sharon Olds.
The writing of June Jordan.
The writings of Ernest J. Gaines.
The writing of Marilyn Robinson.
The writings of Ha Jin.
The poetry of Derek Walcott. Brockport Writers Forum presents another in its exclusive and continuing series of discussions with leading literary contemporaries.
The SUNY Brockport Writers Forum, a program started in 1967 that has involved authors from around the globe. Over 200 authors have been featured at readings and events on the SUNY Brockport campus. Authors come from all walks of life and all forms of writing, including novelists, nonfiction authors, comic authors, and poets.
It's a way to connect readers, and especially student readers, with the authors who are writing the texts that they're reading in class.
The Writers' Forum spans history. Eras of authors, including many household names, have been hosted by the Brockport English Department.
Brockport Writers Forum, in a continuing series of discussions with leading literary figures, presents the writing of Nadine Gordimer.
Nadine Gordimer is an author and activist for civil rights. Born in South Africa, she would write often about the privilege of being white and living in South Africa, including her own privilege that allowed her to be an author. Nadine wrote many works: The Conservationist in 1974, Burger's Daughter in 1979, July's People in 1981. She also wrote shorter works, such as poems and nonfiction articles. Here's an excerpt from her article, Africa Emergent, from 1975.
And then, 277 days ago, there was a new rumor, and this time it was confirmed. This time it was no rumor. He was fetched from his room one night and imprisoned. That's perfectly legal here. It's the 180-day Detention Act.
Nadine won a Nobel Prize for her works in 1991, the first person from South Africa to win one for literature. She was a radical revolutionary, even editing Nelson Mandela's "I Am Prepared to Die" speech. She was active in politics. She would use her writings to push for all people to become more radical in their opposition to apartheid. She greatly criticized white liberals for using privilege to protest modestly instead of pushing hard for change.
Yes, that's quite true. For me, that story would represent a kind of facing of unpleasant facts for white liberals, including myself, except that I don't consider myself a liberal. I consider myself a radical. I might have been a liberal, but I would say that that position has been discarded by me.
Nadine Gordimer passed in 2014. She left a legacy of 15 works, including novels and short story collections, and earned an equal number of awards in her time. Her contributions to the apartheid movement in South Africa were important to its success.
Brockport Writers Forum, in its exclusive and continuing series of discussions with leading literary contemporaries, presents the poetry of Rita Dove.
Rita Dove is an American poet and scholar. Like Nadine Gordimer, she wrote a lot about corruption and inequality. One of her works discussed on the Writers' Forum was Parsley, a poem about the dictator of the Dominican Republic and the genocide of Haitian people living there. The dictator used the Spanish word for parsley as a test, knowing that people with Haitian accents had difficulty pronouncing it. Those who could not roll the R in the word were identified and killed.
And the rest of that, what goes through Trujillo's mind as he tries to find a way to kill someone, is my own imagination. It fascinated me that this man would think up such an imaginative way to kill someone, to kill lots of people.
Rita Dove has written many collections of poems during her life, including her Pulitzer Prize-winning On the Bus with Rosa Parks and 2 New York Times Notable Book of the Year awards for Collected Poems 1974 and her most recent writing, Playlist from the Apocalypse Poems.
I do, especially in museum, because, well, when I started museum, I was in Europe. And by being in Europe, living in Europe for a while, I had a way of looking back on America and, kind of distancing myself from my experience and looking at history and looking at the world in a different way, because I was in another another mindset.
Rita Dove is an outspoken civil rights activist. Over the course of her life, she's accomplished an incredible amount. From 1993 to 1995, she served as Poet Laureate Consultant to the Library of Congress. She was Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets from 2006 to 2012, and in 2018, she became the poetry editor for the New York Times Magazine. Since 2023, she has continued her work by serving as Vice President for Literature at the American Academy of Arts and Letters.
Welcome to the Brockport Writers Forum. I'm Jim Wharton with our guest Weike Wang, whose first novel, Chemistry, came out last year to great reviews.
Weike Wang is a novelist born in Nanjing, China, who at a young age immigrated to the United States. Before her career as an author, she graduated from Harvard with a degree in chemistry. This leads to her novel that was featured on the Writers Forum, Chemistry.
There's just such a distinction between, the hard sciences, which is, I would say, physics, chemistry, and biology, and then the softer sciences, which is, I would guess, biostatistics, economics, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Weike Wang's writings often focus on themes of identity. Her novel draws from her background as both an immigrant and a scientist. Her characters are almost all scientists who view the world in a scientific lens. Her works often delve into intellectual explorations, using humor to create a very human emotional understanding of scientific topics. Chemistry is often praised for its ability to portray the many aspects of a single person's life in a humorous way.
I think one lends itself to this kind of mind, and I think her state of mind is she's very intense and she's very focused, but she's also very scattered. And I find that I met more people like that in the chemistry field because they were in wet lab.
With her background as an immigrant, Weike Wang's writings touch on cultural themes very often. Wang looks directly at the smaller interpersonal parts of a culture that one person is a part of. Every form of writing reflects a part of its creator, but Wang's novels are, in a way, a fictionalization of her own experience.
This is Brockport Writers Forum.
The Writers Forum is a program for authors of all walks of life to present their writing, whether it's a nonfiction piece, a novel, a comic book, poems, or journals. Often after writing something, the author isn't in charge of how their work is interpreted. This is called death of the author. In a way, you could say that the Writers Forum gives life back to the author, giving them a chance to be a part of their story again.
It's just sort of exciting to actually, and unique, to be able to have the people who produced those cultural artifacts here to talk about them.
The Writers Forum started 60 years ago, and for 60 years it has given authors of anything and everything a spot to bring life back to the works they pour their life into. It has given a chance for readers to gain a new understanding and perspective on the writings they have put their energy into reading, and it has given the campus one of its most enriching experiences one can find at SUNY Brockport.